What do we talk about in this episode, Chase?
What's the intro about?
Good question.
We talked about...
We did some deep shadow work in this episode.
We did some deep shadow work in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Around pride, the feminine, oppressing the oppressed.
Toxic safety.
You not being able to handle my fast driving. What else?
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right, check it out.
Check it.
Chase?
I am doing pretty darn good today. How about you?
I feel fantastic.
You're flying high today.
Yeah, this moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing great.
How has this astro weather been treating you?
It's been wild but good. I mean, we came out of I came out of a serious funk there with the full moon and everything, but I feel pretty good today. I mean, we went to the ocean yesterday, which is always
an amazing day.
An amazing day, which was the 4th of July. Yesterday.
We had a dream come true yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday, where we felt like we had this deep feeling our dreams are coming true because we did. They were. We had an incredible day.
Yeah, dude, it was incredible. We went to the ocean. The ocean is always such a wonderful clearing thing.
It's God, I need it. I need to live near it. We live in the desert right now, and it's a little rough for me.
Yeah.
Even though I love the desert, I love it so much because there's so much clarity and stillness. But you get a little parched. You miss that feminine energy, the womb of the earth, the water.
You get a little parched. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And the ocean is like the ultimate Epsom salt bath.
It is. It cleans everything out. Everything.
I slept so good last night. I mean, I just slept so deeply that I got sleep paralysis in the middle of the night and almost choked. That happens to me sometimes. I just sleep so deeply that your body's just heavy, right? And sometimes I get in these positions where I can't breathe, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can't breathe, but you're sleep paralysisized.
It scared me so bad. I had a panic attack because I thought he was dying because I could feel that he wasn't breathing. And we'd both fallen asleep so deeply, in the cutest cuddle position. And it was we were both so snoozed out. And then he wakes up unable to breathe. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I feel like I made the weirdest noise.
And then I had cortisol all throughout my body. I couldn't go back. You went right back to bed. You're like, I'm so sorry.
I don't even remember you getting up. You got up and took a shower and stuff.
I couldn't go back to bed. I was panicked. I was like, fuck. It was intense.
So things have been great, but also things like that.
Well, I think we should talk about, because there's an insane square going on right now, astrologically. Mm-hmm. And it's, I've been feeling it because this last week I've been feeling really.
You've been feeling it hard.
Yeah, and I cried so hard yesterday. Mm-hmm. Really deep emotional crying.
And also the day before that.
And the day before that.
Mm-hmm. Just some deep crying.
Deep release, because we're currently in the square right now, and the apex, the top, a T-square is when there's a tension point between 3 planets. We're actually in a tension square between 4 planets right now because 2 of them are conjunct, meaning blended. But it's a triangle. It's a red triangle, and they're all in a tension aspect, right? And so the top of the one that's in the tension aspect, the peak of it, the apex of it is Uranus, right? And we talk. That's kind of what this podcast is all about. It's all about Uranus, the power of the new Aquarian age, the new frequencies. Uranus is leading the pack with all of this. It's it's up leveling the Earth's energies, the Earth's frequencies, and we're in a massive Uranian tension space. The tension comes from putting pressure on structures that are no longer working, ready. They're no longer their utility is dead. They're no longer. They're dead. They're inert, right? And so the pressure that we're all feeling is this pressure where there's this something that is leaving, but we don't necessarily know how or what. Some kind of energy within the self. That's how I've been feeling on a very deep level. Deep wounds have been coming up, and I've been like releasing them. So the top of this this T square is in Uranus and Taurus, and so the release point, which is the very opposite, is in Scorpio, and that's exactly what has been going on with me. I've been feeling so deeply, like just so deeply feeling.
Well, it's opposing your natal Saturn conjunct. What was Saturn? Was it Saturn conjunct Jupiter?
My Saturn conjunct Pluto.
Conjunct Pluto. That's right. That's why it's so fucking intense. Yeah, that Uranus is the apex of this T square is directly opposing your Saturn and Scorpio, but which is like the release point of this T square tension point. So for you, like Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, right? And so you're having all these constant rebirth moments, these like ego death and rebirth moments. And what's interesting is like some of them have been like so sad, and other ones have been really kind of sweet, actually.
Like what?
Like yesterday when we were at dinner, like you were crying about just like, oh, this is just so nice, you know?
I could not stop crying though. It was so deep.
Yeah.
It was like I was just having this moment of like deep gratitude, and I could feel this emergence of energy in our lives changing, and I could feel an expansion, an allowance of love. It's really whenever I cry like that, it's like I feel love. Like, you know, I feel love. Like when you if you really boil all of existence down to like love and fear, contraction or expansion. It's like whenever I remember when I would do peyote ceremonies sometimes with the Native American church, and I remember that was the thing that would make me just cry and cry and cry was when people were really kind to each other. There was like they would show love, something about that would like, and it's that expansion energy. It's like an expansion, a death. There's a death when you expand. There's a death when you allow love in. There's like a beauty. You can feel something letting go and an emergence. Right. Yeah, I was feeling that. Yeah, but yeah, and then it was funny because we got into we had this incredible day, and then we kind of got into this like well, I brought it up. It was like a fight.
It's like an old fight too.
It's
That's an old
fight.
One.
It's really weird that I brought that up, but we needed to work through it for some reason.
Well, it was the fight about politics, right? Which was like the main fight from the very beginning was just like you. Wait, did you lose something?
I'm having a crazy
What's
feedback.
going on?
It's like buzzing my ear off.
Hold on. just a second. What? I'm gonna pause this. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I don't know what that was. Just a glitch in the system, man.
Who knows? That was weird. I don't know. What were we talking about? We were talking about the old fight.
Maybe that's why. Is the angry buzzing noise.
Wow, that's crazy, dude. Yeah, so after this incredible day that literally felt like our dreams were coming true, we were getting frozen yogurt, and I saw something somewhere about how Kamala Harris, I don't really pay very much attention to politics, but it indicates there's ego death here. Mm-hmm. There's energy that needs to get released, right. Especially for me. So I was reading about how Kamala Harris's 22 of her staff have quit, and I mean, I don't know if this is true. I don't fucking know what news is true, but apparently that she like runs her office poorly, and that she blames people, and it's like this really, really strict atmosphere that people are like, it's horrible. It's a horrible atmosphere, and she's always blaming people, and her and Joe Biden's office don't get along, blah blah blah. Anyway, when I kind of read this, because it's been like a slow, it's like I have this ego energy, and it's true, and it's it's dying right now, around being women in positions of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Kamala Harris was never somebody that I was that into, but it still made me cry when she became vice president. I was like, this is an important thing, right? It's an important thing for women, especially. Alex is always like, you never like her. You never liked her. You don't like her.
No, 'cause she just feels authoritarian to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the moment I feel like I see people really quickly for who they are at that moment or whatever energy they have. And it's almost like before she even speaks, I'm just like, oh, this is an authoritarian person.
It's weird though. She doesn't come off like that. She comes off really sweet.
She comes off that way to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Anyway, so I read that. I ingested that, and I could feel that that's true somewhere inside of me, that's probably true, and that's probably what's going on, because I think there's, you're in the first position of power, you're the first female vice president, it's probably a shit show over there. There's way too much pressure, there's way too much shit, that blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. So I brought this up last night somewhere, we just somehow got into a discussion about it, and I ended up getting really mad. Why did I get so mad?
You got mad because you felt like this article was attacking Kamala Harris more than she deserved, and it reminded you of how hard I was on Kamala Harris from the beginning. Or like, this is awesome. I was like, I don't like her, and you feel that's coming from some wounding I have around women in positions of power. And so you got angry, and you sort of attached this whole energy of white men, and especially young white men, being upset by women in positions of power.
Yeah.
And you brought that whole which is something, I haven't really thought about Kamala Harris in a long time, or really cared. I kind of released, for the most part, even thinking about the president and the vice president. And you just like attached like that brought that whole energy back, and then you were like, it was almost like, explain yourself and all white men. And
no. The thing that I was,
or you asked me to like examine.
Well, no, I also said that for some reason it seems to me that Donald Trump does not get the same amount of scrutiny. For some reason, there is some truth to this, because there is something about Donald Trump that, because he's such a destructive force to the entire system, there is like, at least that's what it felt like. It felt like that.
But you have to admit, there's a massive amount of scrutiny on Donald Trump.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, more than any other president ever.
It's true.
Maybe not undeservedly, but
true.
Like,
it's true.
So it's interesting that you're like, he gets a pass. Like, it's
interesting. So then today, then we came home. So, okay, let's just fast forward. So today we saw this Russell Brand thing. Russell Brand had this amazing speech, or commentary, basically.
Yeah, this like 10-minute video that was
really well said about how basically like Joe Biden is not getting any nearly the amount of criticism that Donald Trump got, and he's like bombing Syria and bombing Iraq and fucking not holding true to his fucking environmental connections, and how the dude who runs the Pentagon owns, like, it's like another,
it's part of Raytheon.
He's this huge corporation, and it's just the same story, and it's really like, and when we were getting frozen yogurt, and I was just like, there's something inside of me that is like, it's so hard, because when I let go and I'm like, okay, Kamala Harris is just like the fucking Joe Bidens, just like the Donald Trumps, just like everybody else. She's part of the system. She's not really doing much. She's a figurehead. It's like, I feel like I am betraying women.
Yeah.
And it's like
there's all this other baggage wrapped up in it that, like,
yeah,
the moment you brought that up, I could feel, and I was like, oh, the weight of the energy of all the other baggage behind it was like crushing.
Yes. And it's weird because it's like this thing that I like defend, even though I don't really like Kamala Harris.
No, but it's because you've attached to her.
I want to like her. That's the thing.
You want to like her.
That's the thing with politics. That's the whole thing. It's like you desperately want these people. This has been the bubble that's because you've always since the beginning been like, this is all fucking bullshit. And I'm like, no, this person is not bad. Like they're actually trying, and Joe Biden's not a bad man, and like I still don't believe he's a bad man. He's a fucking politician, right? And part of the system that's killing us all and killing the earth. And Kamala Harris is also part of that system. And it's just for me to come to terms with that. I said something about like how there's that one woman, Candace Owens. I don't know much about her, but she's like this black woman who is like this crazy, super, super conservative Republican who's like, I don't know, anti-black people or something. And I just was like,
she's just a black conservative who's a really intense black conservative. And I've listened to her, and you can tell that she's also coming from this place of wounding where she's like completely rebelling against something. So it's kind of too extreme, Right.
And there's something where like I feel like, oh, I don't want to become like that. I don't want to become like I don't know. Like even when Hillary Clinton was running for president, I've never liked Hillary Clinton. She has horrible energy. Hillary Clinton has horrible energy. Yeah. You can just feel that she's not but you can also feel that she's wounded as fuck, and she's a woman in a man's world, and how hard it is, and she's had to act that way to get any respect, and blah blah blah. So I have empathy for her as a woman, and so it's a very difficult space for me to be in. But there is an ego death process that's happening right now where I'm starting to release what I want these people to be and actually allow the truth of who they are to come through.
Right. And you all of these people that are involved in these systems that are doing all these horrible things, I feel like all of them like are coming from a place of wounding. Like anyone who's doing these distorted planet killing things has to be coming from some place of wounding, distorting their own souls, right? So like on some level, like I have empathy for all of them, for everyone. Like no one's a bad person.
Right.
To say someone's a bad person is a judgment on yourself. Like you just think you're at some level like because we're all a piece of each other. We're all reflected in each other. We're all human beings. So to think that a human being can be straight up just an evil, bad person at their core just ends up being a reflection on yourself and your own distrust and in humanity. I think everyone it's who we are. All of us at our core is love, and maybe that's what you're responding to is like this empathy you feel and knowing like underneath all these things and these things you're just being attacked for, she's actually a sweet, good person, which I think is true of everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Joe Biden too, as well. Even Trump. But everyone, every human being on some level.
Yeah, when I got really into shadow work, I had this whole dream. It was like in 2017 about how like Donald Trump was like this wounded. He was like wanting to. I like forgave him, and I like saw him as the like child that he was, and he wanted to be around me and hang out with me, and it was like this really interesting dream, and it was very healing because I had so much anger. But I'm past that now. I'm just it's actually kind of gone because Donald Trump's the easiest target. Donald Trump's the easiest target for everyone, right? And now it's the people. My 2020 cracked a big hole in everything for me. I've never been in part of any fucking system. I did used to say that I was, a liberal, which I don't say anymore because liberals are, the liberal is becoming extremely controlling, extremely, and so, everything has just been, I've had my identity as keep has kept wearing away. These things I thought I believed in, these people I thought that I believed in, something that I believed in that was part of the American government is all bullshit. And there's really there's not very few people in the. This is just when you start to have a crisis, though. For you, this has kind of been the way because you're 9 years younger than me,
Mm-hmm.
so you grew up in a different generation where you grew up with we were talking about this with SOLs. Standards of learning. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, her son, he's 16, 17. The stuff he's had to go through, I can't even imagine what kids in school, it's so fucked what is going on with children in school right now.
The system was not quite as controlling for you when you were
in
school.
Much looser.
Yeah, when I was in middle school and high school in the 2000s, it was that Bush era, no child left behind stuff, and that was deeply controlling and upsetting and so backwards in so many ways. And I went through all of that stuff early, so pretty quickly I was like, fuck this,
Yeah And so I don't know, we've been talking about, I think that there's this disillusionment, especially when you're really awake, especially that you've had. I don't know when that disillusionment began, but you've just been, ever since I met you, you've just been like, all this is fucked.
I think that disillusionment began in first grade.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because it did for me too, but I wanted to believe because I could sense that the people that were in these positions of power really believed that they were doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Hitler thought he was doing good.
Right. I've always sensed that too. I mean, this has been a deep tension with me forever. This has been the hardest thing for me throughout my life, is just empathizing with people and knowing everyone is doing good, and it being so hard to speak up for myself in certain situations because I can feel the pain coming from these people who are upsetting me as well, and doing these controlling things that are upsetting me. I can feel that they're just coming from a place of love, and so it's just this deep confusing thing within me where I'm and
well, that's how you used to previously just get walked on.
Yeah, I used to just completely abandon myself because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want to push back against anyone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why 2020, I keep saying the downloads I've gotten for 2020 is it's the empath, it's time for us all to have these strong boundaries of the self where we say no, we're not these doormats anymore because we feel the pain of everyone. On the flip side, you can go on the other side of that and become really angry, right? Because you
that
also
just reminded me of the what is it, Dinosaur Jr. song. It's
I listened to that song on repeat for years. So depressing.
Feel the pain of everyone.
They all feel nothing.
Yeah.
I listened to that so over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like Radiohead as well. The most depressing shit. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Yeah.
You were just talking about the crisis of the empath and needing to say no.
Yeah, and building up some kind of boundary where you don't allow yourself to, you don't just acquiesce because you feel the pain. That's how the narcissist energy empath dynamic has created an earth that is dying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we equate saying no and setting a boundary as something that's I don't know, discompassionate or mean or something like that, when really it's not. Yeah. I think we've been talking a lot about detachment. I think there's an element of this of seeing the other person and detaching them from this angry, wounded part of themselves, or this controlling part of themselves, or these dark parts of themselves. You empathize with them because you see the thing underneath them. So I think what you can do is you can separate those two things and see you're saying no to their darkness and these things that are not only torturing you but torturing them. Well, and it's actually a compassionate action to say no to these fucked up parts of them.
But do you have compassion for Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like I mean, and maybe, that discussion we had was reaction from the way that you used to talk about her and the people that you used to love, who you've kind of grown out of now, but, people like Noah and all those people who really disliked her as well.
Right.
And there was a lot, that dislike, there's an anger. There's definitely a young white man anger against her.
Well, we're angry at that controlling piece of her. we're angry at that
Right.
those dark parts.
The toxic
of her.
feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it looks misconstrued, right? The whole thing
as
gets
an
all
anger at the whole person.
Exactly. And so, I'm just coming back to the source here. I don't know. It basically it comes down to, it's funny because we went to LA yesterday, and so we came home. We had that argument after the end of the night. We had that argument, but then we got over it. Then we came home and we like turned on the TV and Star Wars was on, and it was the very last Star Wars. It was the last 30 minutes of the last Star Wars.
Return of the Jedi, the old ones, not the new ones.
Which I haven't seen Return of the Jedi in years and years, but Alex is a super geek.
So
Star
many
Wars
times.
super geek.
I saw that movie for the first time when I was 4 years old. All three of them. So they're like this deep. It's like my foundations of my morals is Star Wars.
It's a good morality to have. It's really
Yeah.
good. It's really good. I mean, that's probably the best thing you could put your. I mean, that's the best thing. But so yeah, and I totally forgot that in the very last episode, freaking Darth Vader saves Luke,
Mm-hmm.
and I started crying because he was like,
Aw.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
and then he
was
takes the
like-
mask
he takes
off.
the
You're
mask
crying. You know, like
off.
how wounded he was, how much pain he had been in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like look at each other, and he's like, "You saved me from the darkness," and the whole thing was all about anger.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, because that's what the emperor kept saying. He's like, "Use your hatred, use your anger,
Mm-hmm.
use your anger, use your hatred. You'll become stronger and stronger." That's what the dark side is all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I don't know. I think there's something here that for me, because for me, I'm Italian, and like anger is a language, part of our language. It's part of my culture,
Mm-hmm.
and to begin to surrender that, it's like it really creates a crisis of the self, because it's like, who am I without that anger? It's part of my entire narrative of my life, right? It also makes things funny. You know, I mean, your favorite comedian is super angry.
Yeah. Tim Dillon. Yeah.
It's like the most angriest dude in the world.
It's true. It's true.
So but I think that the anger that I'm talking about here is this righteous anger, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's an anger that you've attached your identity around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, anyway, that was the conversation we had yesterday, and so I'm releasing my my lost political ideas, my iPod, all the kind of stuff I had around anything that was left, that I had any little remnants of believing that anything in our American politics was
They're creating so much
actually
pain for you.
legit. Well, you want to so bad,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's really liberating to let it die. But that's
Yeah.
I mean, this is the archetypal energy of what everybody's going through right now. This is what awakening is, really. It's releasing yourself from the idea that these people are going to save you, that they're good, that you can trust your leaders. If you can't trust your leaders, if you don't believe in your leaders, that means you absolutely and ultimately are responsible for
Yeah.
yourself.
And that Kamala Harris is representative of all women everywhere, and especially women of color. She's
Yes.
not. She doesn't speak for everyone. She's just Kamala Harris. I mean, sure, there's an element, I guess, that you can project that onto her, but it's too much. It's too much for any one person to be the representative
Yeah.
of an entire class of people.
It is too much. Yep. Yeah. So, and yeah, it's just coming to terms that these, there's these, it's interesting because we saw that the guy who's the Pentagon guy, who's the owner of
The Secretary of Defense?
who's the owner of this big corporation,
No, he's not the owner. He used to work for Raytheon, I believe.
who's got all the contracts that's promoting this war.
Raytheon's a defense contractor. Mm-hmm.
And they're making all this money
Right.
right now in the Middle East from Syria.
Right. They require conflict to be profitable.
Exactly. And it's interesting because he's a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what's happening.
Right.
If you just first see, oh, it's a black man in office. It's a
Right.
black man in this giant position of power. That's a step forward, right?
Right.
And it's not really.
No,
it's
it's purely aesthetic.
exactly.
It's in a way like a deeply racist thing. To be like just any any old black man will do. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole spectrum of black people, there's a whole spectrum of white people, there's a whole spectrum of any kind of person, women, men, anything. And to just say like, oh, that person's a black person, that means progress. Well, does it if he's like deeply tied to Raytheon and deeply tied to this system that requires conflict for profit?
He's like a black Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's interesting because this ties back to, we watched The Color Purple recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And The Color Purple,
awesome.
Oh God,
so good.
Oh my God, so good. Why was it so good, Alex?
Oh, it was just such a deep story of oppression and oppressor. And the ending of the story, there was this network of all these characters who were, some were oppressors, some were the oppressed. And in the end, it all came together in this beautiful symphony of healing for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed the wounding of both sides, and just everyone coming back together in this beautiful explosion of harmony.
God, it's one of those, I want to read the book now. It's one of those films that's like, one of the best movies I've ever seen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because what's really interesting is I used to live in Maui, and I used to kind of know a lot of different celebrities in Maui, and I knew Alice Walker, who is the daughter of I knew Rebecca Walker, who's the daughter of Alice Walker,
who wrote The Color Purple.
And she was really freaking cool. And I used to work at this market that all these celebrities went to and stuff. And so I'd talk to a bunch of different people. Anyway, so she and I kind of, we just started up a conversation. We became friends when we would meet at the market and stuff and talked about different topics and stuff. Anyway, I really, really vibed with her hard. She had a really deep, strong, authentic energy about her. Come to find out, she has like this incredibly what's the word, isolated, when you're estranged, relationship with her mother, Alice Walker. And so I was curious about that because I wanted to know why, right? We were just watched this movie touched us both so deeply. Why would they have that? So Rebecca published some articles and wrote, had some interviews about how her mom basically like refused to let her play with dolls because she didn't want her to be overly feminine or overly connected to the divine feminine, or no, sorry, not the divine feminine, the feminine mother archetype. She was such a hardcore feminist. That she didn't want her. And there was just this oppression that kind of went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until she became herself this intense oppressive figure to the point where Rebecca stopped talking to her. She said it's just extremely toxic, right? And so we were talking about this energy of this oppressor,
which is an element of The Color Purple as well. There's that moment where Celie, who's the main character, who's this deeply oppressed black housewife, reacts to Sophia, or another character. Sophia's husband's talking to her, and he's like, she's like crazy and uncontrollable. What should I do? And Celie says, beat her.
Yeah.
Which Celie's a beaten wife herself.
She's been beaten her whole life. Raped.
And it's this really dark moment.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And this gasp moment,
Says, beat her. Just beat her.
Mm-hmm.
So intense.
Mm-hmm.
But basically the reason I'm bringing this all up is because it's the same energy that we're talking about here, where these people get into positions of oppressed groups of people get into positions of power and act as the same oppressor, right? And it's happening currently with the liberal side, and that's what Russell Brand said. It was like, all of these wrongs that are being done by the Democrats or whatever, Joe Biden, are not even getting any publicity because, people want that,
they want him to be something.
They want him to be something. They don't want to believe that he's actually as oppressive or similar, or it would ruin it would crack their entire worldview open. He has to be this savior, and if he's not, this is exactly what you said was going to happen, actually, Alex. Now that I remember, this is exactly, you said people are going to come to realize that he's not the savior, and they're going to have a crisis.
Yeah.
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 But this dynamic is interesting. This dynamic where people become the oppressor. Because Alice Walker wrote this story that was incredible. It was such redemption in it, and such freedom, and such deep oppression. And then for her to understand those dynamics and to write about it so well, and then to become the oppressor herself is intense.
Yeah, it's intense.
Right?
It's our dog.
Nico.
He's trying to get our attention. Yeah, man, it's so intense to see someone who wrote such a beautiful, clear story that felt really true to like the depths of our souls, and then she still struggles with this same thing that she wrote her whole story about.
Yep.
It's crazy. It's like, wow. It can be a little disheartening to be like, whoa, someone faced their shadow enough to write this amazing story and still struggles with it.
Well,
Do we need to put him out?
What's interesting, I'm not paying attention to
Okay.
What's interesting, I remember reading Jane Fonda's autobiography, which is an incredible autobiography. Jane Fonda's like an amazing human, has had a crazy life. But she met Martin Luther King's daughter, and she said something, because Jane Fonda's dad was Peter Fonda, and he was a horrible father, and gave her no love, stone cold. And she said something about to Martin Luther King's daughter about how she didn't really get much love from her father, barely got to see him. And Martin Luther King's daughter said the same thing about her father to Jane Fonda.
Wow.
I don't think it was that. It wasn't that he was cold like Jane Fonda, but it was that he wasn't really around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Right.
I mean, but it was something to that degree and to that effect, and it's just this idea, this thing where we are this putting these leaders on these pedestals,
Right.
pedestalizing,
Right.
which is part of capitalism and part of hierarchy, part of colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of this idea of duality, good
Right.
and evil, one person at the top.
Right. This person is good. These people are bad.
This person's the savior. Jesus is the savior. He's going to save all of us minions. Right?
Yeah, right.
This president is the president who's going to save us from the darkness of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This Kamala Harris is the black woman who's going to, give us all redemption. It's like in none of these, even Martin Luther King himself was imperfect.
Yeah, it's like the more we aggrandize these people, almost the bigger their shadows are.
Yes. Yes.
There's this whole Russell Brand was talking about theater. There's this whole theatrical aspect.
That was funny.
That was really funny.
Because Joe Biden's making these weird speeches right now where he's like whispering.
Yeah.
He's like, you know about the environment? I wrote that. It's really weird.
Leans in, is like, I'm gonna tell you a secret.
I'm gonna tell you something.
I wrote that. I get what he's trying to do, but it comes off so weird. And I'd never watched any of his speeches, so that was my first time watching any of his speeches. Like, what is this is so weird. And like this sort of theatricism to presidential speeches did not exist in that way before Donald Trump. Like Obama never did that sort of thing.
No,
he did a little bit where he would have these moments, just a little spice of like personal, like it's almost like a breaking the fourth wall sort of thing, like this little moment of spice.
Yeah.
But now, like post Trump, it's so weirdly theatrical, and Biden's like not really good at it, and it's like too much.
Well, he's old and it's just not working. Dude is like he barely knows what's going on. He barely knows what's going on. I mean, I'm impressed he has as much together as he does, but yeah. So yeah, what's the point here?
Well, I was just talking about the theatricality that's involved in all these people. And think about like Martin Luther King's speeches, which were amazing speeches, but it's theater, right? It's theater.
Mm-hmm.
And politicians are doing theater all this time, and there's a gap between whenever there's theater, there's always a gap between what's being presented and what is reality. That's just the nature of theater, of theatrical things.
Right.
So
Right.
And there's so much push right now to be like, this theater that's being presented to us is reality, and if you don't accept that as your reality, you're the problem. You know?
I think up until this point in time, people have believed their politicians. I think Donald Trump was kind of he destroyed that. Are you hearing a buzz?
That's okay. It's really tiny. I need to use a new cable. We're having so many problems. There we go. That's better.
Okay.
That's better.
Sorry.
It's
yeah.
Oh, did I disrupt the flow again?
No, I'm just pontificating here.
Pontificating.
Um,
Very proper.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of what's going on with this square that's happening right now.
Everything is happening. Nico's fucking with you. The machine is fucking with you. Like the buzzing in your ears, the buzzing of the cord.
Yeah, well, this is what was going on with you last time.
Yeah.
Everything was, you were tired, and you remember you were on the phone the other day, and it was like screeching in your ear.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the square. As I'm talking about the square, all this shit is happening, right?
It's magical, really.
It's magical. It's
Consciousness
the new...
in action. It's consciousness in action. Watch it work. For better or worse.
But it's this new energy that is getting, it's like, a square is like, I feel like it's like an earthquake is happening, kind of. Like there's this tension, right?
Uranus kind of is the earthquake of astrology.
Yeah, so that's why everything is really, because Mars is still squaring Uranus, and that creates all these really intense, jostling, accidental, weird shit that happens.
Mm-hmm. Spikes of energy, anger.
Yeah.
Mars is the god of war, the planet of war.
Yeah.
All this fire, all this energy, all this anger, and it's in Leo, so it's in a prideful energy right now. Wounded pride.
And Saturn is like trying to, wounded pride. Saturn is just trying to stabilize all this Aquarian, Uranian shit. That's why you and I have been having all these conversations about stability. Because I'm really Uranian, and I go, woo! I go way out into the cosmos, and Alex is like, come back down. We have to implement this. And he's like, so we're constantly teeter-tottering between like, finding a way to stabilize the energies, right?
Right.
And that's what's happening. That's basically what's happening. And so this realization, I don't even want to call it a realization. It's because I already know all this stuff. That's what's crazy. I've always known you're right. I've always known that all of it's bullshit, but I couldn't bring myself to completely admit it. I wanted to believe.
Well, there's been things like that for me with you too, where like there's things I don't want to completely admit to or believe.
Right.
We both struggle with this.
It's pride.
I think everyone does.
It's pride. An ego.
Leo pride. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're both wrong. What do we start saying? We're both wrong.
Yeah, that's our new thing, and it's great, and it works.
It takes you back to that fool energy baseline. We know nothing.
We know nothing. We're both wrong.
Fools.
We're both wrong.
It releases everything.
It releases everything.
Try it sometime.
It's great. Because then I just go, you're wrong. He
Ah.
admitted he was wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, I internalize my own wrongness. I know. It's not right or wrong, though. It's all bullshit. It's all parrot. That's the whole thing, is that we're turning into a time that is beyond right and wrong, good and bad, leader and master and slave, leader and minions. We're moving into a time where we're beginning to we're decentralizing. We're taking our leaders off their pedestals, literally, and we're becoming the leaders ourselves.
Yep.
That's literally what's happening. That's literally what's going on. And it's that deep fear, especially for older people and that really believe that their government is, going to keep them safe. It's letting go of that, because then they go, oh my God, I actually have to look at myself, my beliefs,
Yeah.
what I think during the day, what I'm creating on the daily. I have to start getting into like what my thoughts create things and how I treat people and how the amount of resentment I hold, and that my health actually has to do with myself and not anything outside of myself. What?
Mm-hmm. Because to become your own leader, you have to expand your level of awareness.
Right.
You know, and it can be scary to do that. It can be scary to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, man.
That's it.
Especially if you've gone a significant portion of your life stuck at a certain level of awareness, stagnant for years and years and years.
Or you have a lot of pride about something.
Or you have a lot of pride.
And you don't, like, I mean, you were just talking about earlier, like, what if one of our, what movie did we watch?
Star Wars? You talking about Star Wars
we watched
again?
the movie we both loved.
The Color
Long
Purple?
Shot. Long Shot.
Oh yeah, the Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron.
Yeah, which is so good.
It's pretty great.
What if, Charlize Theron, there's this part where she, like, drops the mic and tells the truth, right?
Yeah, she's like the Secretary of State, running to be president.
Getting blackmailed, having to acquiesce all these, parts of herself that she, in order to get shit, blah, blah, blah. And she was going to do it. And then she finally just was like, no, this is all, like, these motherfuckers are lying and they're blackmailing me. And this is what I believe. And Alex was like, what if somebody actually just spoke the truth? Like one of our political leaders actually did that.
Right. I think there have been political leaders at lower levels who have done that.
Yeah.
And gotten some level of headway. I don't know off the top of my head who that is, but what if someone like at the presidential
Bernie Sanders
level,
kind of does that. Bernie Sanders.
Kind of, yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrea Octavio Cortez, she does that.
Mm-hmm.
She does that. But it's still in a, I think that our entire system, the way it's designed, is because of this idea of on leadership, presidential shit, where this person is at the top. It's, even though it's not meant to be this hierarchy, it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't operate. When you have hierarchies, you're creating duality.
Mm-hmm.
And we're entering an age of paradox that is quantum, that is beyond that. So I feel like it's really just the way is to release the charge and the belief system and the projection of power onto these people.
Right.
Right?
And, as maybe that hasn't happened yet because the collective consciousness hasn't been ready for that yet. And maybe as we continue to loosen, there may be some weird moment like that where someone in a really high position of power, because that being in a movie, it's been imagined, right?
Yeah.
It's been imagined.
And put on screen with Charlize Theron.
Put on screen. And when things get put on screen, it's typically a matter of time before it expresses itself in some way in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that's coming.
I was saying, though, I feel like if that happened, like they would put that person in a freaking mental institution, or they would take away their power. Like, I just don't. And we collapse the whole thing. I mean, Donald Trump kind of started doing that a little bit.
Right.
He kind of started doing it, but he was,
He's Donald Trump.
He's Donald Trump, so there's no truth ever,
Yeah. It's like this opposite side of the spectrum where it's actually almost has that same flair that like pure truth would, just because it's so blatantly going to be a con man.
Iconoclastic.
Yeah.
It's iconoclastic. Yeah. That was his whole shtick.
Mm-hmm.
Iconoclastic. Which was refreshing in some ways and deeply troubling in others. So, yeah.
So maybe the opposite of that is coming. Maybe the opposite of that bottom of the wave he created will express itself as well.
What would we like to see?
I would like to see that Charlize Theron moment. I'd like to see if the president coming off of a Molly trip being like, you know what, man, it's all fucking bullshit. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. It's good to imagine what
It's good to imagine that. Yeah, it's great to imagine these extreme things.
Yeah, or just like the decentralized. It'd be great if I just don't. I think at this point in time, the charge and the power structures are so developed still, and they're in the process of
they're in the process of
crumbling.
Apart.
Yeah. But the only way to truly do it is from internally.
Yeah.
Which is what we've been talking about here today, which is to take away the charge or the projection, the belief that these people are actually. I mean, at some point in some way, of course, they believe they're doing good things, but they're innately part of a system. It's like the Albert Einstein quote: "You can't change it, so you can't solve a problem from the same thinking that created it." It's the same as the Audre Lorde quote: the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
Right.
It's the same exact point. You can't change something with the same system of thinking, with the same logic. You have to literally, completely, throw a wrench in it and shift a consciousness.
Yeah, and I've expressed this idea to you before, where I believe that the world is actually de facto decentralized, de facto anarchy. It literally everyone does have personal power to a much higher degree than we give ourselves credit for. It's just that these belief structures are so intense around us that we don't have the power. There's some really intense disempowering narratives and belief structures. But the actual truth of the root of the world is we're all running our own ship.
Yeah.
And there's oppressive things around us for sure, but there's much more autonomy than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
And so the truth of the world, decentralization is actually the truth. And these governances and really highly centralized forms of power are theater. They do have weapons and monopolies on violence and whatever, but it's still theatrical on some level. Because it's not the truth. It's not the truth of who we are.
They wouldn't be trying so hard.
Right, exactly.
If it was, there wouldn't be this deep...
If they weren't so afraid of our individual power.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's really what's happening, is a revolution of the mind is what's happening.
Yeah, and we have this sort of distrust of ourselves collectively, where we hand the power over to authority figures because we're I don't trust myself. I'm scared of what I might do, so please put some rules on me, put some boundaries on me because I'm scared of myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's what you're saying when you're
that's
I'm
exactly
scared
right.
of,
That's exactly. Well, that's what what did we watch? We watched that show that the 600-Pound Life. My 600.
Oh God,
that was a low moment.
That was a low moment
for us both. I think we were both crabby. I don't even know. We were both just in a weird space. We were what the fuck is this? I had never seen that show, but the woman that we watched was 750 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was weird because the guy she married this
guy. Guy was so weird.
Who was she couldn't move.
She couldn't move.
Walk.
Dude. She could walk 10 steps.
I mean, she looked. I've never seen a more miserable human.
No.
Never.
More miserable and disempowered.
And it was weird because she was with this dude who was literally feeding her plates and plates and he would feed her 3 giant plates of food every meal that was. Yeah. He would feed her a pound of bacon and
he was her enabler.
He was and he said he wouldn't be attracted to her if she lost the weight.
Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. At least let her be 300 pounds or something. Why does she have to be 750 fucking?
And it was
pounds?
weird because he would
holy shit.
He was her caretaker. He got paid and he would clean.
Yeah, that was a weird conflict of interest, right?
That was bizarre. He would clean all these inside of her fat flabs and parts of her skin were kind of falling off. She had bed rot.
Yeah.
And
horrifying.
It was this, but the reason I'm bringing this up is that it's connected to that, literally, taking control of, what is it?
Well, you're afraid of food. That's a big one for you and your own power over food. If I don't give my food over to some power structure that I can construct for myself, I can't trust myself with food.
Exactly.
You believe you can't trust
yourself with food. And this is a huge
food.
narrative for women, but I think it's a deep, deep narrative of the soul, a spiritual narrative. That's what I kind of woke up to this week. I was like, because I've been paying you're the foodie guy, so I've been like following your lead with the food, and you know
you can't though. Ultimately, you have
No.
to follow your own lead.
and
Too much for me
it's
to
a
handle.
woman. I know, sweetie. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's cool.
It's interesting because it's that female dynamic where, especially women, we can't handle ourselves. We can't, you know, and so you just give up the power and you allow somebody to feed you, even though you literally become you can't move. Makes you sick. You just take the food of somebody poisoning you because you don't feel that you can handle it yourself.
Right.
And that's basically the same construct as our government. It's like we're taking this,
or our health system,
everything,
any
anything,
system,
anything,
any system, yeah.
anything that you personally actually don't manage yourself, that you personally have control over, take the reins with, that you're asking somebody else to handle for you, then you are giving up your power. You're essentially becoming a slave or a child, and it takes away all confidence. It takes away it projects all of your energy outwards.
Takes away all self-esteem.
Everything. It takes away all power. Puts you in a position of complete fear and unknown.
Yeah.
Uncertainty.
It can only ultimately make you a bitter, angry person or a depressed person anywhere on that spectrum.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
I think that's what's happened a lot with what's going on with our political system and a lot of people.
Right. You know what's interesting is we read that book Power versus Force. And there's a thing like an energy hierarchy in there, which I read was actually like really similar to what's in Scientology, which is interesting, right? There's grains of truth everywhere.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh, okay. There's obviously flaws with things, right? But the whole energy hierarchy is interesting, where it's like going from, you know, depression to anger. Anger is actually a higher level of energy than depression. And so it's almost like it shows like you have to go through these things to get to a higher place, to where you finally get to pride, and then above pride is courage. So there's a whole layers of toxic emotions that you have to go through, and you actually have to go, you know, as you go higher, you're still going through toxic emotions until you finally get to the upper crust layer. So like this anger, and you know, might actually be indicating an up-leveling of our consciousness, where we came from this sort of apathetic place, and now we're actually waking up and we're angry, you know, and it's still negative and it's still not where we want to be, but it's in some way an indication of a rising in consciousness, you know, and we'll hopefully transcend that to pride is the next one. Right.
Well, that's what we're going. That's what I'm going through with, like, letting go of the pride of the feminine.
Go to courage.
Courage is my favorite.
Yeah.
Y'alls.
There's also, it's not just Scientology that talks about this. There's a ton of, it's a really popular concept in New Wave.
Oh no,
Age
Abraham Hicks talks about that. It's called the wheel of something.
Some people call it the spiral.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And you basically just you get yourself into a state where you can do that to yourself. That's what they teach. Abraham Hicks teaches that you can. It's called something of appreciation, and you just get yourself into a space where you just get out of these vortexes. And it's a vortex. It's a spiral.
You've experienced that personally as well, where you're like depressed, and then you get angry because it brings you out of the depression. You know, then you have to let that go and rise to the higher
But the way
levels.
for me, like, I was really depressed a couple days ago, and then I just we talked, and I had a deep cry, and then I was like, felt really good after that. Well,
sometimes you can just jump, maybe. Too.
Yeah, you just have to find a way to release whatever it is that's holding you back. It's just holding back light, holding back energy, holding back, holding. It's just fear. It's constriction. And
there's a fear if you like let that go, that something will, I don't know, go wrong. That it's
because it's chaos without it, because that's the system that you've built your life upon. So it's
an energy that's fed you in some way.
It is chaotic, but it's also extremely liberating, and then from the chaos comes order. That's how it works. It's always, you know, the order, chaos, they're like an interchanging, you know, infinite loop. You know, So you have a minimum, even if you go into a state of chaos, there will be order that comes from it. You just have to let it be chaotic, though. I think a lot of people are really scared of chaos.
Yeah.
I'm not really scared of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You are, kind of.
I can be, kind of. I'm also not.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
There's parts of chaos that we're both scared of, and parts of chaos that we deal with better. It just depends on the area of life.
Right.
At this point, I deal with the chaos of food a little better. And the chaos of my bodily health a little better. I can accept fluctuations. But there's things that scare me. Chaos with money is scary. Chaos with I don't know. We don't have
like
to go
it when I drive out fast.
Oh yeah, driving scary. Like follow the rules.
You can't handle it.
Don't go more than 5 miles an hour over the limit.
Oh my God, you guys!
It's
back
scary.
Me up here. Back me up.
It comes from I've gotten speeding tickets in my life and all these things.
It's funny because I never get speeding tickets and I go so fast all the time. My dad literally. Well, he was he literally was he was the vice president of promotions for Elektra Records, and he was a crazy motherfucker. He would come pick me up when I was 6 years old and drive 100 miles per hour, and it was so much fun.
And I feel this visceral reaction inside of me when we're talking about this right now. This tightening, and it's like, no!
We would listen to loud music, drive fast, and laugh, and have the windows down. It was fun!
And so when you're doing that, even just a little bit, I'm like white knuckling it, dude. I'm like, oh, and I want to deeply control you so badly. I want to be like, no, bad. Give me the wheel.
Hitler.
You can't handle it. Yeah. I'm like, oh.
And I'm like, no fucking way, dude. Back up. I know this. I know this. I know this realm.
I feel so like righteous in my constriction because it's my safety. It's my safety. I'm like,
It's all right, you're working through it.
Yeah.
It's basically how I'm it's a metaphor for how I'm taking you through this reality now. You're going much faster
because it makes sense.
No, but you also I want to go faster with things. I'm like, let's move through this, and you're like, yeah.
As above, so below, always.
And you're loosening up. You did really good at the drive.
Why the risk? What's the point of the risk? We're gonna get to the destination no matter what.
But it's not risky to me.
Yeah,
it's not risky. It's risky for me to go slow. It's risky.
Why?
Because it literally makes you want to throw up. I can't.
It's emotionally difficult for you, but it's not
slow.
like
because
there's no
I love
risk.
driving fast. It's part of my tradition of my family.
You have to admit there is literal physical risk in that, though, and driving like a maniac.
Not in California. I don't drive like a maniac.
Sometimes you do.
You guys, he drives like a grandma. He drives like a grandma.
I don't drive below the speed limit. Okay. I don't drive. A grandma drives like dangerously slow. I drive just comfortably.
Oh my God.
I'm not that bad.
Okay.
Was I bad yesterday?
You're just talking to me about how I drive crazy. I don't drive that crazy, dude. I really don't.
But it feels like it inside.
Yeah.
I mean, is 100 miles an hour not crazy?
I don't drive 100.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes it's mostly 80 to 90.
Okay.
And it's in California where the speed limit's 70. It's fine.
We should have a poll on this.
It's not. I do not drive 100, you guys. That's I drive 90, 80, 90.
Yeah.
85.
I'm working through it.
You're good. You're fine.
That's just maybe the biggest one where I feel it in my gut.
Well, you
where I'm
got it.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's not real. Whatever.
No, man. It's good for you. It's good for your freaking... It's good for every part of your being, dude. Plaid mode. Plaid. Just think plaid.
It's good for the Nazi rule follower.
Yes. The Hitler inside does not like it.
No.
And
we made these rules for the safety of everyone.
No.
You're destroying all of society.
Fuck your rules. Fuck you. Nope. Not going to do it.
Yeah.
Not going to do it.
Fair enough.
Okay. Cool. All right. I think that's probably good for today.
Yeah.
Is there any other thing you wanted to talk about, Alex?
No, man, that's pretty good for me. It feels good. Yeah, we're at an hour and 2.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Solid show, man.
Yeah.
Our shows are about an hour.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad too.
Thanks
I
for being
love it.
here. Thanks for doing this with me. You're the best.
You're the best.
You're the best.
No one's better at Valley Girl than you.
I'm like a ridiculously good Valley Girl accent.
It's in
You
your
guys.
blood.
You guys.
Born at Cedar Sinai.
Yeah, I was born right in the center of West Hollywood. You guys.
Okay.
All right. We love you guys. Thanks for
Love you.
listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.